Welcome back to One Piece Anime Review. This is episode number 62. This one reviewing the 849th episode of the anime, which is called Before the Dawn, Pedro, Captain of the Guardians. Yep, this is all about Pedro. And I kind of predicted that something bad would happen to him in this episode, which something does. I'll get to that in a minute. Most of this episode is a heavy focus on Pedro, building up what's going to happen to him. This already happened in manga, so I'm kind of spoiling something that's already happened in manga. Yeah, even though it just happened in anime. Mostly this episode picks up right where the last episode is, with Luffy uses Gum Gum Red Hawk to basically blast through Pedro's big candy maiden decoration, smashes through that, and then gets into a brawl with Katakuri, which pretty much lasts for pretty much the whole episode. That's what he does. The only time he doesn't fight is when the ship gets frozen with candy. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Brook and Chopper are still stuck in the candy from the last episode. Yep. And let's see what else. Big Mom is still have her hunger pledges. Pedro's basically, before the Straw Hats get on board the ship, he calls up. I don't remember the guy's name. The guy kind of like a clown with the big nose. He calls him up, told the Nuts Fleet to go, basically blockade the southeast coast. And so he calls him up, says, "Okay, I'll do it." Calls up the fleet, who is answered by I think one of his sisters, and tells her that you need to blockade the southeast coast. Like, okay, fine. Doesn't tell him the fact this order comes from Pedro's, who, by the way, is the eldest son of Big Mom. Yep. And there are some things I've got to say about Pedro's. Every time I saw this guy, the guy's got a great look. I love his hat. I love his coat that he wears, especially with little mint candies as buttons. I love his cane. I don't mind his delivery power. That's not my problem with it. My problem is his tongue. Like, why is his tongue sticking out? Seriously, how the heck can this guy talk with a tongue sticking out? Was he born this way? As far as I know. He does this. It's like he speaks normally, even though normally somebody who has their tongue sticking like that would be speaking gibberish. And yet somehow this guy talks perfectly fine with his tongue sticking out. Yeah, it's really weird. And anytime you see this guy, he always has his tongue sticking out. As far as I know, this has never been explained. Never has. Yeah. Of course, they also do something in the episode that in the anime hasn't been done in quite some time. I think the last in this officially was during Dressrosa. Yeah, during Dressrosa. What was this? The Kuda Burst. Yeah, they're about to set up for us when Pedro's basically sets up the big candy. Yeah, and Nami is the one who basically lifts one of the barrels of cola, still left on board. Yeah, normally this is Frankie's job, but since Frankie's not on board, Nami's got to do it herself. She puts up one. Kara puts up the remaining 3, because apparently it requires 4 barrels. They can't do this a lot because it wastes a lot of cola, because Frankie's got obsession with cola. And Jinbei, of course, but when he gets Nami on board, he basically picks her up by her, wraps his big, huge fishman hand around Nami's belly, because, of course, she's got an hourglass figure. Yeah, that's the weird thing about the series. A lot of the women, this is the biggest criticism I've heard about the series, is the women's hourglass figures, where the waist size is so thin. It looks like Nami barely even eats, even though she does eat. Same thing with Rob when she's eating. She's basically got this figure. And also, before they do the Kuda Burst, could they at least get the submarine inside? Yeah, when you watch it, like, okay, the submarine's been sitting there now for 2 episodes, and they're about to do it, and then the candy shows up. My personal guess is they're going to put it inside just before they do the Kuda Burst. Yep. Hopefully they get time to do that, but they have to have somebody rush over there. My personal guess is they could probably have either Jinbei call some fish to come up push it over, or he's gonna throw Nami over, have her pilot the sub in there, even though she's never. Here's the weird thing about this sub. The sub has been piloted. At least people have been inside of it. Chopper has been inside of it multiple times. Brook has driven it. So has Trafalgar Law, Luffy. I think Sanji has driven it, but that's basically it. As far as I know, nobody else. I mean, Nami has never been seen inside of the sub at all. Yeah, and she put out one time during a filler arc when they faced up against a bunch of animals that all people on board of the sub are all Delphi users, so these people can't swim. Which those people are Luffy, Trafalgar Law, and Chopper. Yep. And of course, who was driving the sub prior to this? Brook. Yep, Brook was driving the thing. Yeah, hopefully get a chance to do that. Jinbei doesn't do much this episode aside from pick up Nami, bring her on the ship. He doesn't do much of anything. Carrot looks like she's about to fight Big Mom, but Pedro gets a chance to tell her that apparently that Luffy and his crew, apparently the crew that both his tribe and the Katakuri clan have been waiting for all this time, filming for the New Dawn. Yeah, they keep talking about that, and there's this wonderful flashback they have in the episode of Pedro meeting Gold Roger before he died. Yeah, I'm like, that is interesting. I love it. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic piece of character development. The fact you had a chance to meet Gold Roger in flashback. I mean, it was mentioned during the Thunder arc that Gold Roger had visited the place years prior to the start of the series, so it makes sense. And he remembers a quote from Gold Roger. He says, decide to be your turn or something. I'm loosely quoting what he said, but he remembers it. Says to Pedro, so basically Pedro says so pinned to the ground with the candy around his neck, and he basically, get this, he's about to do something really rash. He holds on Pedro's leg, opens up his coat, and it's full of frickin' dynamite. Black stick dynamite. I'm like, okay, where the heck did he get this stuff? I mean, as far as I know, the Straw Hat ship doesn't carry this stuff. He must have got it when he was fighting. Either he must have got it from the Fire Tank Pirates. That's a possibility. He could have started off with Big Mom's weapon storage. He had plenty of time to look around, so why not? But, basically he just became a suicide bomber. Yeah, that's what he basically turned himself into, a suicide bomber, just to get the Straw Hat escape. And by the way, his explosion destroys the candy that surrounds the ship. It doesn't destroy, I don't think it destroys the candy surrounding Brook and Chopper. Yeah. And Luffy notes, despite the fact he's using his hockey against Katakuri, apparently it's not hurting him at all, probably because of his Delphi ability. And apparently it's also another flashback that Pedro was the one who escorted Pedro and his crew out of Big Mom's territory, though he was in chains at that point. I think that's interesting, the fact that apparently that Pedro's got a chance to interact with him. I mean, because look in the first flashback they show when Pedro came to the island, it looks like he just interacted with Peckins, who was another mink. I think, well, Big Mom, obviously, and there's a few others, but not Pedro's. But I think it's interesting the fact that they actually did that. But this overall was a fantastic episode. Yep, I forgot to mention what this one is adapted from. This is adapted from pages 10 to 17 of chapter 877 and pages 3 through 5 of chapter 878. I mean, I kind of expected this one to be the death of Pedro in this episode, or at least next episode, but it happened this episode, so because I knew 878 was going to come up because I knew that's when he died, and yeah, it's this episode when they decided to have him die. Yep, and he's still dead. Yeah, they confirmed it in flashback when he first visited the island. He was 27, and so let me think. Since it's been, I would say he's probably in his 30s, or I would say he could be in his 40s, despite the fact by physical age-wise he's basically in his 80s. Yeah, so he aged like 50 years in like a blink of an eye. And of course, the reason why, he originally was going to be slated to get 7 years off his life, but he actually cut that down by a little bit by giving up his one eye. Yeah, they mentioned that he gave up the one eye. It was mentioned also in another flashback when they showed to it. And I think people watched the anime probably didn't know about Pedro's death, but people read the manga, yep, they knew about Pedro's death, and they built it up really well. I gotta praise the animators for doing that. And when they show Gold Roger's execution, it's pretty much the execution they show from early on in the series. It's stock footage they pulled directly from early in the series. It's really weird that they did this. This is actually the first time I'm seeing this animation style since season 1 of the show, but I still question to this very day, since I started watching the anime, is that I have never heard of this form of execution for a pirate, much less any convicted felon. I mean, I've heard executions of stuff like firing squad, hanging, beheading, either by guillotine or axe. There's also been drawn and quartered. I've heard of that one. And, of course, some of the modern ones, like today, you have the electric chair and the lethal injection. But not the one they show on the show. This is particularly very bizarre. Having 2 long swords, and apparently stabbing him in two particular points that it kills this guy right automatically. This is by far one of the strangest forms of execution I have ever seen. And I have no idea if this is an actual execution or not, because normally now the stories I've read about pirates whenever they get executed, usually, and this of course was set in the 16th, 17th century, they were hung. Yes, they were hung. But my guess is that Oda probably didn't want to do that, so he basically created an execution. As a matter of fact, Luffy actually visited that site during the end of the first season of the show. And the platform was destroyed by a freak lightning storm. And they show in this flashback of his execution, they show various people who's appeared over the course of the series in this episode. They show Crocodile, but they show the back of his head, Mechagoria, Hawkeye Mihawk, let's see, Red Hair Shanks was part of his crew, Buggy, Dragon was apparently there, and the only one I know is Dragon is the guy in the hood. And here's something really, apparently in the flashback, he doesn't have that big tattoo over his eye. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. And pretty much he gives, now the speech that apparently Gold Roger gives in this episode is the same exact speech he gave from last time, but it's weird to show this. I mean, yes, it has been a while since we've seen Gold Roger in a flashback. Oh yeah, they even show Whitebeard. Yes, they even show frickin' Whitebeard in this flashback. And they even show a young version of Warda. Yeah, this is the first physical appearance of this character since the Totoro arc. Because, yeah, and apparently she was, we also see a young Pedro. That's where we see him. This is also the same type of flashback. They see him interact with Gold Roger. And he is devastated over the death by Gold Roger's death. Because I think he saw Gold Roger as a hero. And he was sort of basically looked like to him, not like a father figure per se, but like a good, like, a good friend. And the fact he knew him for quite a while. They even show another flashback of one of the chieftains with the pyroglyph, the red pyroglyph, the rope pyroglyph, that has been shown a few times in the course series. But this is the first, and this particular one shown up since the Totoro arc. Of course, last time was seen wasn't present. Of course, it's a flashback. And the reason why Pedro went to Megbomb's territory was to get the air pyroglyph. But Brook actually managed to do something he couldn't do. He didn't steal it, the pyroglyph. He basically did a rubbing of it and basically gave that for... He did that for Nico Robin. I'm sure Nico Robin is probably going to give Luffy a kiss in the cheek. She might give one for Brook, but she probably give Luffy one first because, well, she asked Luffy to make sure that he did that for her. And Luffy said, I'll do it. Because the thing about Luffy, he always keeps his word. Kind of like another basically protagonist, another anime I like, Naruto. He was known for keeping his word a lot. He never broke a promise. Well, most of the time anyways. He did break a promise in the recent arc, but that's basically in the current stuff. But in the original stuff, he never broke a promise. Not really much at all. Especially looking for Sasuke. Yeah, that's a promise he kept for 3 years. Yep. Otherwise, though, that's really it. Fantastic episode. Very shocking ending to the episode with the whole death of Pedro, which I know for a fact is definitely his death. And Carrot is the most devastated by Pedro's death because Pedro was her mentor. Yep, he was. And also, I've got to point this out though. First time in the series we get a chance to see Gold Roger ship, the Aura Jackson. It's a fantastic looking ship. I gotta praise them for actually showing it. Though, the big question I have is, what the heck happened to that ship after Gold Roger's executed? Was it sank? Did the Navy seize it? It's never revealed. I know in another flashback, this of course during the Marineford arc, the related to Ace, apparently, even though the whole word was to basically Navy capture him, he actually surrendered himself. He turned himself in order to avoid having his crew being hunted for all this time. And of course, they're bringing the fact he was king of the pirates. Yeah, and though I keep wondering, like I keep saying, like I said before, like I said just before, what happened to that ship? Yeah, what happened to it? That's a big question I think a lot of people probably should be asking. What happened to Gold Roger's ship and the rest of his crew? We know what happened to Buggy, um, Red Hair Shanks, and I'm trying to think what was his name. Uh, he was the first mate of Gold Roger. Yeah, he's still around. He's waiting on Sabaody. Yeah, he's waiting on Sabaody. That's basically where he is. Shanks is one of the four emperors. He's still around, and Buggy's one of the seven warlords. Yeah, at least know where they are. But the rest of the crew, no idea. Oh, there's also the doctor as well. Of course, we know what he's up to. He's looking out for the big whale that apparently was a crew that left him behind. That was actually Brooks' old crew. Yep. Yeah, but there's many questions basically the show can answer. But one of the biggest questions that the series has never answered yet is who is Luffy's mother? Yeah, and also, where did exactly Zoro came from? That was another question. Zoro's like one of those a few characters of the series don't really explain where the heck he came from. Yeah, I hope somewhere in the near future they do explain that. Okay, but that's really it for this particular review. Stay tuned for a little bit later for my review of the 7 Deadly Sins. Where I'm going to go over the 2 most recent chapters. I know it's a chapter released tomorrow. I might do probably a special for that tomorrow as well. But, excuse me, yeah, I'm hoping that these 2 chapters improve because I have not been impressed by the past 2 chapters of the series. I'm not going to drop this series, mind you. It's a great series. But I hope they do something. I hope they go back to Meliodas and Bond. I hope so. But I'll find out when I get a chance to read the manga. Okay. I'll see you in the next review. Bye.